Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, breadwinners and thread spinners, you are now watching the TNF podcast with your favorite bipolar rock and roller, Mr. J. Curtis Strickland. I just wanted to read some of the new shows that we got coming up, and this is the first show of 2024, which is awesome. And TNF is actually celebrating 3 years streaming, so a huge milestone. We got Chad Neptune from Further Seems Forever and Strong Arm. That's going to be on the 14th at 5 p.m. That's a Sunday. We got Hoya from Madball, Hazen Street, and the Diablo's Den, or excuse me, Smoking Word. Wrong podcast. From Smoking Word and Smoke AD. That's going to be on the 21st at 5 p.m. And then we've got Eric Wheeling from Undying and Hearts Carved. That's going to be on the 28th at 7 p.m. All right. So
dude, what
today,
a great lineup you have coming up, Jason. Really great guest,
coming
man.
together, man. You know, it's one of those things when you get focused, it all falls into place. But please allow me to introduce my guest. He is a man of many talents. We were talking about this backstage. Man of many ventures. He's been the vocalist in Voice of Reason, The Distance, and Blackened, and he's also the co-host of the Diablo's Den podcast. And he does a whole slew of other things that we were talking about that we can get into the podcast. Without further ado, Jay Reason, what's up, man?
Thanks, Jay. Hey, man, again, I had thanked you at the top of this, but dude, thank you for having me on. I've been enjoying the past episodes. So when you reached out to me, dude, I quickly said yes, dude. I almost feel like I manifested my guest spot on your show. So thank you, dude.
Man,
I'm really excited to talk to you.
I don't know how to take that, man, because I'm like a no jack, you know, and so it's really a privilege to be able to have all these prolific hardcore.
Well, listen, man, I'll tell you this, dude. I've said this a few times. I get asked to do these pretty often, and I most of the time say no. And I don't really look at people's following or whatever. I just kind of look. I'm like, all right, this is the person I could talk to and would hang out with and stuff. And I saw your videos, and obviously, like, you've had so many of my friends on, and again, dude, just I like the way that you interview people. So I thought that we would have just a great conversation, or was really looking forward to it. So again, thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Yeah, and likewise, you know, I'm really enjoying your guys' episodes and the guests that you have.
Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, I was going to say, out of all the things you listed for me, I always tend to say that Diablo's Den is probably the most fun, only because I almost treat that as a band itself in a lot of ways. Because we don't get to do it as consistent as I would like. And I've said this the last few times, like in my head, dude, I'm doing an episode every week, right? But it's just the bandwidth between everything I do and worrying about other people's stuff getting done that, you know, obviously just my stuff kind of falls to the way.
Yeah. And you know, I agree with you there in that I've always equated this podcast as me being able to do a band without actually being in a band, you know, and like not having to deal with all these conflicting personalities and people showing up late and shit like that, you know, and your success or failure is ultimately contingent upon you, you know.
Totally. And that one was a lot of fun because, you know, we actually really recently just celebrated 5 years of doing the podcast together. You wouldn't know that by the amount of episodes, but I always say, I'm like, yo, the fact that we did 5 years and we still are doing stuff. We just did an episode last month. We have a bunch of stuff in the works is amazing to me because, you know, man, I very much, probably like every one of your listeners, grew up as a fan of all of this shit, dude, whether it's the music, the people, the culture, everything. Right.
Yeah.
So when, you know, I've known Isaac for years and it's amazing. And then so when he's like, hey, I'm trusting you to help me get this off the ground, you're kind of like, all right, you know, when you're working with him, whether it's in Diablo's Den or the new Smoke AD thing he's got with Hoya, it's like, it's super rewarding to me, not only just to watch these guys accomplish so many things, and especially to put my friends in position so that they're winning, right? But it's like that little like 16-year-old kid in me is like, oh, holy shit. Like, yeah, what's up, Pineapple? Those, you know, those little kids that are in there, that are inside, you know, like that 16-year-old Jay Reason is like, yo, I can't believe what's up, Chris? Little love overthrow. We're definitely gonna talk about that.
Got a lot of requests. Continue. Sorry, sir.
But yeah, like I was saying, man, like, you know, getting to work with your friends, that inner 16-year-old kid who's singing along comes out, and you always want to do right by everybody, man. So yeah, no, working with, you know, getting asked to do that. And like I said, just the fact that he still is interested in doing it and we still come up with ideas. And then, you know, he does this kind of supplementary podcast with Donnie because he's living far away. So just to keep the content going. And then me, and shout out to my boy, Yvonne, we do Diablo's Digest to kind of fill it in. Again, one of my goals for this year, man, is to try to at least do 2 a month. We were doing really good, but you know how it is, Jay. I mean, like I said, shout out to you, man, for doing what you do, because this is tough. I don't think people
It was
realize it.
never this consistent. I'll tell you what, like I was, myself, I've got a lot of projects going on. I've got Hell's Art Merch Co.
Yep.
Uh, I just got asked to join a band,
Oh,
Lockdown.
awesome, man.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. Doing directing music videos, and then I'm also a SAG after a union actor. So, which I haven't done shit with yet because the union was on
Oh,
strike.
that's
So,
awesome. I did a
but
couple of things way back. I did some background stuff in Revolutionary Road, and I was like one thing away from getting my card. I just never followed through, but that's
oh,
awesome. Yeah, that's
yeah,
super
it's
awesome.
it's it's a beautiful thing because it's a goal that I had kind of worked towards for quite some time. I mean, since I was a little kid, I knew I
So
wanted to
sick.
be an actor, and with this, it's really kind of honing my skills towards voice acting, and that's kind of been my dream, is to do like
Oh,
narration and
dude, good luck
voice
with that,
acting.
man. I think you'll kill it. Yo, what's up, Scott?
Scott Gajewski is in the house. I'm slacking. I need to come out to the record store.
I'll
So
see you soon, brother.
let's get
Yo,
into it,
Kelly.
man.
Yo, shout out to my friend Kelly in Sisterhood, ex Sisterhood X. She just relaunched her site. You got to check that out.
Oh,
Straight
cool.
Edge Sisterhood stuff. Kelly's the best. She also owns a
Nice.
sticker and printing pin company. So everybody, if you need some printing stuff, check her out. Stick it to me buttons. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, I've heard of them. Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely. That's awesome. So
yeah, man.
let's
I
get
love to
into it,
share the
man.
love, as you know. Yeah, let's get into it.
All right. So the first question I usually ask to people on the show is, how did you get into music? Did you grow up in like a musical family? Did you, and then specifically more, how did you seg into like hardcore and punk rock?
Yeah, totally. Dude, shout out to Juan and Maria, my parents, mom and dad. They are the best. Came over as immigrants from Cuba, dude, with nothing. So it's amazing to see how far they've done stuff, and it shows a lot in what I do. So shout out to them. There was always music playing in the house. They were big disco people, so it was a lot of stuff like that. My first
Yep.
record was obviously, I think, Michael Jackson. Thriller is the first that I can remember off the top of my head of
Banger.
owning and having. It was
Banger.
total banger. I still have that copy here.
Yeah.
um so yeah, dude, I mean, I always remember, especially like with my dad in the car, he always had the radio on. So, just a lot of stuff, absorbing a lot of tunes like that. My first job, real job was at McDonald's. I don't want to front, but then right after that was at a record store.
Oh, nice.
And that really like inspired me to really get into stuff. I had I didn't know a lot about hardcore punk rock yet, but shout out to my brother John. He was playing in bands, hardcore bands. His band was called Vision 12. They were like Connect hardcore bands. So they're on a bunch of flyers that if you look around that era. And I'm sure he did not want me to be hanging out around him so much, but he reluctantly like let me come to shows, and he very much was inspirational and instrumental in getting me what would become Voice of Reason started. Helped me find the first guitar player, and dude, my brother just really looked out for me, took me to all my shows. And I think through seeing how they worked, and going to shows and seeing like, okay, this dude's doing that, I think I could do that. Like it was I had never seen music that felt so entry, I guess, for lack of a better description,
Successful.
right? Everything
Yeah.
I had listened to was like these massive productions. It was on MTV. It was you wouldn't even know how to get that or play a show or anything. And then here was
Right.
my brother taking me to like these places that I couldn't even believe existed as a kid, with like other kids a little bit older than me going fucking crazy, man, jumping
Yeah.
off places, and kids with tattoos and piercing. And it was like my mind was just like, whoa, it was the coolest. I mean, still to this day, man, I think it is the coolest fucking thing.
Oh, yeah.
I go to as many shows as possible as a week I can go to. I still love it. But yeah, man, long story short, that's kind of how I got into all this. And for better or worse, dude, I've not left it. It's been a long time and I'm still here.
You're a lifer, man. Yeah,
Oh,
I
dude,
get
I'm
it.
not going anywhere, man. Trust me. These
Well,
guys
and
won't let me.
the thing is, a lot of people, I don't remember who it was that was on the show, but we were talking about this. A lot of guys in the hardcore scene have kind of springboarded into other endeavors, like take, for example, Brandon Chapati, who
Oh,
has like
totally.
a gym and he's like a trainer. And then,
Oh yeah, and I
you know,
mean,
you,
I always love bleeding through. There's a distance connection there. Brandon helped us out when we first put out our first full length. Dude helped us get an watch endorsements and a sneaker endorsement. He looked out for us. He was super cool guy. I'm so happy to actually see them back. I've always been a huge fan of his band, and I'm excited to see them back.
Yeah, super awesome, dude. We got to share the stage with them like years ago.
Yeah, they're so cool.
You know, you think a lot about those Orange County bands, and you think they're kind of like stuck up and stuff.
Oh
and,
no, see, we never like
stuff, and they weren't.
No, dude, and it's funny because if you kind of look at like the distance, like not maybe not musically, but the appearance wise, we were so influenced by that because New York, East Coast stuff and Connecticut was all about looking so hard and tough. And I mean, dude, I'm not a tough dude like at all, you know. I used to be, not anymore. And so it was like we'd see stuff like that, and it was like, wow, you could kind of look cool and still do this shit. And those guys were so fearless in that, and I love that about them. And then too, they were really smart, you know, like a lot of that sound has stayed so fresh, you know, now. And it's kind of crazy, dude. Even down to the artwork, you see a lot of these kids kind of mimicking shit like that. So like, shout out to them. I know a lot of bands like that got hated on, but it's like, I feel like so much of that hate came from people just being fucking jealous that their bands weren't doing that. You know, a lot of time in people's head, they feel like they're just as good or just as this. And I hate to tell it to you, man, like those guys, Bleeding Through, Throwdown, you know, whatever, 18 Visions, like, dude, there's a reason they got to where they got, you know what I mean?
Well, and too, like if they're hating, like, look at all their girlfriends and wives, and it's like, totally. They're having the last laugh right now, you know?
Totally.
Trophy girls. But yeah, no, OC had that really kind of interesting vibe, you know, and you know, I think at the core of everything, they were still hardcore. You know, James was on the show and was talking about how Bloodlet was like hugely influential to them, you know, and like
dude, and their self-titled record, which is, you know, again, kind of, I guess people would call it like their sellout record or whatever, their major one. I love that one. When we did our Distance sellout record, that was one of the records we actually brought in with us for the mix and a couple other tones, because I was like, that record was so massive. There's 3 records. I won't say which the other 2 are because it's just too spot on, but there was 3 records. They're not hardcore records. And we were like, these 3 combine it into one thing. And it was pretty fucking spot on. One of those was that record.
I hear you, man. And you know, that is an extremely polished album, and not in a bad way. I think
it's great.
Good. You know, one thing I've learned as I got older is that, you know, you can find some of the good in maybe particularly music that you don't particularly care for. Like, okay, I'm going to throw this one out here. Breaking Benjamin. Say what you will about the band, but that album production is some of the best I've ever heard. And that singer has a sick ass fucking growl.
And Jay, listen, I work, you know, we briefly touched on this. I work with a ton of clients outside of this, right? Gary, what's up, man? You do not become big and maintain a fan base and sell records without having some kind of being kind of good, right? So say what you want. Maybe it's not your taste, but it's like, those guys are drawing something. They're still streaming X amount. They're still putting out records and getting signed. They're getting advances. You and I don't have to like it because there's fucking other people who are gonna, you know, like I own a record store and I can tell you that their vinyls do very well. Dr. Hoof. We're going to talk about Blackened. Dave is the drummer. It's my boy.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, I mean, like, I think Scott Ian from Anthrax had a really sobering attitude when he was talking about, you know, people give hands and shit. But those guys write all their own music, and they've been going at it forever. And, you know, he was just like, yeah, you know what? Respect, you know. I think it was the drummer of Carcass was, you know, people talk shit on the group Baby Metal, you know, but he's like, there is some serious musicianship in that band. And there is too, you know, like it's kind of a guilty pleasure, but I don't even know if I feel guilty about
I don't believe in guilty pleasures, man. People like what they like, you know what I mean? I've always said that to people. And I think that in my bands too has showed we're like ones to, let's do this or do that. We just kind of did what we wanted to, whether that worked for us or worked against us. But, you know, man, I can always look back at least at everything and say, you know, I did it the way I would do it. I would do everything again the same way. I might even make it more of a sellout stuff. So who knows?
I hear you, man. So let's talk about, you know, you found your foray into the hardcore scene. What was your first show and what do you remember about being at that show?
You know, I want to say my first show, there's 2. So let me break it down into 2 things, right? So my first like local show, which was at a teen center here, shout out to Amity Teen Center. That's not really around anymore. But that was like I would say like hardcore bands that were not national. I was like very local. So like Yvonne, who I do Diablo's Den with, his first band, Travesty of Justice, would play. My brother's band, Vision 12, would play, you know? And then through that kind of circle, as my brother's band like kind of expanded a little bit, then they got added to shows at like say the Tune In and other teen centers, and those venues were where I got exposed to say like 25 to Life, and I always pinpoint a show at the Tune In that my brother took me to. I can't really remember anyone else who was on it, but it was a 25 to Life show. And I mean, Jay, when I tell you this line was like around the fucking block waiting to get in. And you know, my brother had played me the 7-inch in the demo. And again, I was like, you know, probably like 16, 17, somewhere in that area, you know?
Yeah.
And dude, going into that club and just seeing that, I was like, holy shit. And again, man, everything at that time was so produced, so I'm not saying musically, but just everything was polished, right? Like I didn't know that even existed, let alone like I could go 10 minutes away and see bands like that. And it was just changing, man. So again, I owe a lot of it to my brother for really just, you know, letting me kind of tag along. And he really showed me, he was like the first person to play me like the Misfits and like a lot of that cool shit, you know? But so I would say those are like the two things I remember early on. And then from there on, it was just like, we would go to the Tune In every weekend. It didn't matter what was playing, because it was like, you knew you were seeing something that was like a alternative underground. So whether it was like a ska punk thing or a hardcore thing, you just went because there was no internet there. So you knew you'd see somebody you knew. There was a record store in there. You know, it was super cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Very like community oriented. And, you know, the earliest memory that I have of, you know, going to a show, my very first show.
What's up, Shannon?
Hey, Shannon. Was Stretch Armstrong.
Oh, I love, shout out to Chris and Stretch Armstrong. Some of the best.
I would love to have them on this show.
Dude, I'll connect you. Jay, I will connect you. Chris is the fucking man.
Yeah,
the best. He's the best.
Chris booked some early shows for us actually. But I remember seeing them on stage, and those guys were like hardcore heroes to me, you know? Like,
they're the best. They were some of the first, outside of like I was mentioning to you before, outside of like Hatebreed and 25 and some of those bands. Stretch Armstrong looked out so much for us, and just seeing their presentation, like him and David with the backup vocals, and just, dude, the live shot, the energy, like, yeah, man, it was addicting. And it was funny because my first memories of that band, you were talking about having the Further Seems Forever guys, Chad, on, and some of my first memories of Stretch Armstrong are listening to those early records on Tooth and Nail, you know, and Jamie used to trade shows with Chris and Stretch. Nice. So my first couple shows, like watching them, were at like the Bristol skate park, where Joss would trade shows with Scott, right? It did seem like they played there every weekend. But Joss would trade shows with Chris. So like both of them would kind of go back and forth. So we got to see Stretch Armstrong. And again, it was very different than most of what Connecticut was used to, but those guys were so fucking pro. Yes. Shout out to them. It's nice to see them back.
Yeah.
Doing stuff, dude. They're one of my favorite kind of that genre bands. I really, really love them.
I always maintain that was like the Carolinas version of like Gorilla Biscuits.
Oh,
like,
totally.
You know, where like the 80s Northeastern hardcore scene always, you know, Gorilla Biscuits and all the Rev bands and stuff like that. That was like our version of that. And like, you know, if you watch the intro real carefully, you'll see me stage diving. That was actually one of the Stretch Armstrong.
Oh, no shit. Yeah, I got to go back and I love that video. Yeah, no, I dude, I will happily, after this, I got to connect you with Chris. He's the best. So yeah, and I'm sure he would love to be on.
Yeah, no, he's great. Chris, David, Scott, all of them. They're awesome.
They all rule.
Being able to see them on like a small stage where there was just, you know, the audience and the band, and those guys were so tight, and they were so like, they had so much energy, and I was just blown away. I was like, holy shit, this is amazing, you know? And
yeah, it's awesome.
It was unlike anything that was going on, you know, like in mainstream commercial radio. Not to say that I wasn't listening to any of that at the time.
No,
but it was
dude, listen, we already told you, you don't have to ever justify to me. I love all that shit.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it was very like, it was like a gateway to me to like so many other bands, and I give mad respect to them. But so yeah, let's talk about Voice of Reason. What was the catalyst? Oh, and by the way, we're taking questions, so if you guys have any specifically, field them in the chat box. And we also got super chats too. If you want to give a little donation, that would be most appreciated.
Hook Jay up if you can. So let's talk about Voice of Reason. So yeah, the initial formation of Voice of Reason, it was called Lynx, Linx. I don't know why. We were never straight edge or anything. I think we just saw something and thought it sounded cool or whatever. And we had a really kind of rough demo. But again, we were just playing in this kind of circle of like the teen centers or whatever. And then through reading the back of like every Revelation CD, I saw a name, Don Fury. Don Fury's name was on everything, right? So again, this is pre-internet. There's no way to just like Google somebody's name or whatever. Right. And I remember saying to Mike Sabia, shout out to Mike Sabia, the guitar player in Voice of Reason, and to Van Hartley, who played drums. I was like, man, I wonder if we could like record with this guy or figure it out, or something like that. So I remember calling, I've told this story a bunch, but I remember calling Revelation Records at the time, just 411 Long Beach, Revelation Records, whatever. Somebody answered the phone there. And I literally just said, I was like, hey, do you have a number for Don Fury? Like fucking whatever. They gave me a number. Dude, I left a fucking message on this dude's machine. I remember it was just like, hey, my name is Jay. I think I even said like Jay of Reason or something ridiculous. And, was like, we want to record with you, and didn't even realize how many big things he had done currently. Right. So I'm just reading demos. I'm aware that he's had just finished the Civ record, the Biohazard stuff, like all these massive records, right? Like that's the being a kid. Right. So a couple of days later, I remember I get home and my mom's like, oh, this guy, Don Fury, called for you, whatever, blah, blah. So we call him back and he was like, yeah, I'll do it for this. And it was, yo, Scott, what's up, man? It was about $1,000, dude, which at the time was, it's still a lot of money, but at the time, couple 16-year-old kids, it was a lot. But I knew that it was important, dude, especially because I saw what was going on around us. And I knew I wanted to be a part of that, like kind of the circles that had shit going on. You know what I mean? I knew we could have probably done a demo here in Connecticut or something, but I really wanted to do the best I could do. And again, shout out to my dad, because none of us could drive on the highway. He drove us to Don Fury's. Yeah, man, it was super cool. And Don Fury stayed a presence in Voice of Reason's career up until like the last release almost, you know what I mean? So we recorded with him throughout. We learned so much from him. We're so grateful too, to be a part of that energy of the original studio down there where they did so much stuff, Jay. It was so awesome, man. Again, being 17, 18, 19, 20, all that kind of those years doing records with him. And again, being so young that you're not even aware that this shit's happening. Like I remember like Sammy from fucking Gorilla Biscuits would stop by, like just weird shit that I'm like, God, that's so crazy,
Oh, you conked out for a second, but yeah, no, it's an exciting time when you're in your late teens, like early 20s, when it's like, you're really starting your foray into that world. And then you end up meeting bands that you really look up to. And it's very inspiring. And it's almost kind of like you get this like euphoric feeling. And you're like, wow, we're really like doing something interesting.
Yeah. And it was super cool because it challenged us too, like as young as we were. Like, I always say now kids can go and you can, like, if you're starting a band, like say you're 15, 16 and you want to start a hardcore band, you have like 40 years worth of shit to go back on and look into, right? And it's all like at your fingertips. We didn't have that, dude. Like I didn't have this like crazy record collection. My brother didn't either. We had a couple 7-inches, we drive to a couple stores. A lot of our first entry stuff, dude, was like Epitaph record stuff, Fat record stuff, Rancid, like that kind of shit. So I think a lot of what made Voice of Reason cool, I mean, I cringe at some of the stuff, but it's like I didn't know how to write a song or anything. But I think what makes that band so unique and so cool is that we didn't know what the fuck was going on, especially like in the scene we're coming from, where like the Connecticut thing was so heavy, so hard. You got like Death Threat, Hatebreed, all these tougher bands. And then it's like, here's this like little band trying to like come out. And it was cool because all those guys like looked out for us, and it was really awesome, man. We were part of like this really great scene that, I mean, again, I look back at some of these shows and flyers and experiences we had, and I'm just like, is this even fucking real? Because it's been so fun, man. I feel so grateful.
Yeah, Jamie thanked one of my bands on, I think it was Rise of Brutality, and we were so gassed about that. We're like, "Oh shit, look at this!" Like,
yeah, it's amazing.
Hatebreed was like huge for us growing up,
Oh, dude, huge to work with in 6, 7, and it was a great experience.
That's awesome, man. That is so awesome. Drugs Delaney says,
"Yo, House, that's my guy, dude. Hell yeah! What's up, House? Happy birthday to my boy, dude. It was just his birthday the other day. Shout out, House.
Happy birthday." So was touring an interesting experience? Because you mentioned that you had, your dad drive you to shows. Did you eventually Get your driver's licenses and be
Well,
able
you
to
know, it's
go
funny.
like
Eventually, when we would go on a tour, Jay, like one of my first experiences, and I don't think you could get away with it now, was we have the first van we ever bought for Voice Reason was the old Hatebreed van. Beatty sold it to us. Shout out to Beatty. And at that time, dude,
Oh wow.
you know, we didn't even have like insurance or plates. And I actually had, oh God, it's been long enough now. They can't come back, but I photoshopped us plates and printed them out. And we drove and toured it was a temporary plate. So the number was right, but I just kept changing the date on it.
Oh wow.
So shout out to my dad for buying me a scanner and an inkjet. He probably had no idea what was going on over there, but
Oh
yeah, dude,
wow. My
you
dad
couldn't do
never
shit
let
like
that
that.
fly.
Yeah. Yeah, no, dude, I sometimes I laugh at the stuff that I got away with that I would never do today. But yeah, man, touring back then was crazy. Especially too, because it was so hard. You know, we would just get off and exit and you'd get a payphone and just kind of be like, hey, where's Main Street? Is this the kid? And you'd hope the show was still on. And you know, dude, I have some funny memories of just thinking, you know, us going to shows and the promoter's not there, the show got shut down. Like it's just, yeah, kids are luckier now, dude. You know, you can kind of cancel a show in a minute and you don't even have to leave your house. We were like halfway out
Yeah.
the road and
Map and dealing with MapQuest and all this other
yeah,
shit. Yeah.
we were
Yeah.
just, I'll say this, man. I say this all the time. We were so lucky because we had so many people looking out for us. We got on some amazing bills, so we didn't always have a lot of the experiences I'm sure a lot of other people had. You know, but dude, we were and dude and feel so blessed that we were able to do that, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, do you have any sort of interesting tour experiences to where like something crazy happened? Could be in any band, truthfully, but like, just a wild story that anybody that
You know,
wouldn't be in a normal realm of society
I
wouldn't
would
be able
say
to know.
it's like I don't know if necessarily crazy, but like one of the most fun experiences that I think of like when I think of Voice Reason, because the distance was like a touring machine. Like I don't count that the same way, you know. But Voice of Reason got to tour. It was with Cause for Alarm and Blood for Blood.
Oh shit.
And that was amazing. And I just remember, shout out to my friend Ian McFarlane, who plays bass in Blood for Blood. Me and him still talk daily. And we always talk about this, but just, you know, the camaraderie we had as bands so different, Voice of Reason and Blood for Blood, like who would have thought? And it's like, those guys looked out for us all the time. And we played with them so many times. And I just have so many funny experiences of like, you know, van pranks that we would pull. And, you know, dude, Rob Lynn from Blood for Blood playing acoustic in a bar after the show, which was just amazing. I have a
Oh
video of
wow.
that somewhere on a VHS somewhere. But yeah, man, it was just such a cool time back then because everything felt a little more special. I think because it wasn't as connected as it was.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, like again, we just feel so lucky that those were the experiences I got to be a part of, especially with so many great bands, you know.
Mike Manser says, "Damn, talk about
Oh,
hardcore
shout out
love."
Mike. VHS Mike is the best. He's got the illest collection too. He's got a YouTube channel. Check his stuff
Oh,
out too.
check it out. Yeah, post the link. Yeah, like I said, it's kind of an interesting time in your life, and you know when you're in like a band in its infancy and you're very young, you know it's kind of this. It's almost like a template for you kind of figuring out how to do your later bands. You know, you're like
Yeah,
some bands get really
totally.
lucky and they figure out how to do it right away, but then others, they kind of fuck up and fail and things like that. And but
Well, and I
I honestly
think when I
remember
started,
I was
oh,
gonna
go
say,
ahead.
I
Sorry,
honestly
Jay.
remember some of my best memories being the hard times, like the
Yeah,
fuck, how are we gonna get out of this one, type thing.
totally. So like when I started the distance, man, I knew right away though that I wanted to do everything totally different than Voice Reason. I wanted to tour full time. I wanted the records to be heavier. I wanted a little more aggression, you know, because again, Voice of Reason was so much like it was my first band. I never thought we'd get signed to Triple Crown. I never thought we'd work with Jamie. I never thought I'd be doing all these things. So it's like people kind of followed our band as I aged, as I evolved. So there, and it shows in the music, you know. Whereas like the distance, you know, up until the album, and even still through the album, is very focused. Like I knew what I wanted the band to sound like. I knew I knew I wanted to play. I knew I wanted to do a bunch of different stuff. And again, dude, during all of this, through Voice of Reason and the distance, you know, I'm working with Jamie doing the label. You know, I'm doing Stillborn Records with him. So it's like I'm learning a ton of shit. We're putting out stuff. So it's like this really like amazing time for me, man, where I'm just exposed to so much shit via all the people around us that when it was time to do the distance, all these tools were available. I was like, fuck, I'm doing it like this because I want to be hanging with these guys. You know, I don't want to play at this level. Voice Reason did it at that. I want this.
So we were talking about Bert McCracken.
Oh, dude, one of my favorite recording experiences. Shout out to Big E, Chauncey. Everybody from the Connecticut chat will know who he is. So I first actually met the Used when I was out with Hatebreed for Ozfest 2002. So they were opening second stage. Me and Big E actually befriended them first. They were kind of didn't really know too many people yet. We gave them a Hatebreed shirt and we were friends. And then, you know, Bert and I stayed in contact for a couple of years. I wish I still stayed in touch with him. You know, over the years, you kind of lose touch and people update emails and stuff. But at the time, it was a little easier. And they played a Connecticut show at the Webster. I have a photo of it. And I got to jump on and do Box of Sharp Objects, which is one of my favorite songs with them. And I just remember kind of half joking saying to him, like, hey, man, when we do a record, will you come up and sing on it? And he said yes. You know, but I didn't expect it to happen. And then when it came time to record, you know, Big E was working with the band. Big E is a dude who can make so many things happen. So again, shout out to him. And I explained to him kind of what we had in mind for the song and the track, and especially what the track meant to me. And yeah, he made it happen, dude. They got on a plane and he came in, and I just remember like we were in the studio. And again, I still love the Used to this day, but the first 3 records are like imprinted in my brain. So, yo, Tim, what's up? Seeing him come into the studio, Jay. Yo, TJ, what's up, dude? Seeing him come into the studio and just hearing that voice. And then, you know, you're hearing yourself and your music and your lyrics. And then he starts doing like these cool ad libs and just, you know, dude. And then the next thing you know, it just sounds like him doing all of his stuff and all these cool, unique tricks. And, you know, one of the things I always tell man, upcoming bands and stuff is like, you know, when you get these in these situations and these experiences where you're in a studio and you're with somebody, whomever it is, man, pay attention to everything that's going on, because you never know when you're going to use that again. Because, you know, you might be in a good band now that's doing shit. What happens in 10 years, you know, dudes? And that might be like a skill set. Like, yo, Mike Z, shout out to my boy, Mike Z. He also just had a birthday recently, dude. So happy birthday, my man, Mike Z, Year One Productions. You know, but like, yeah, dude, I always just tell kids, you know, pay attention and everything, because you never know what these skills you could pick up, whether it's in a studio or talking to somebody, ordering merch, manufacturing vinyl, because you would be surprised how many people don't know how to do that, or order CDs or order t-shirts, you know. So there's a whole avenue out there, man. So I always tell people like, yo, enjoy everything that's happening now, but pay attention. So again, man, I've been super lucky that I have been in so many amazing situations, from recording with Don Fury to recording with Shep with our record, or, you know, being around Jamie all those years, you know, and all of the things that I learned doing that led me to be able to do all the shit I do now. I never went to college, dude, or no shit like that. You know, like, yeah, I'm a hardcore kid, just like everybody else, man. I'm trying to avoid a job like everybody, you know?
Oh yeah, no, that's been my, you know, and being able to live in LA, I was freelancing a lot of the time that I was out there, and it's so much more liberating to do something that you're passionate about,
totally,
and to be able to sustain yourself and you know, make like a prospective career around it, you know. And yeah, like you were saying with the paying attention and like the hands-on experience, like with this channel, with this podcast, I've had to learn everything from the ground up.
I mean, dude, I never did a podcast until Ezek said, hey, I want to do one. And I just said, okay, you know.
Oh, damn.
Oh, yeah. And I just said, you know, again, in my head, I had an expectation, just like when I do a record or a band or work with a client, that I'm like, okay, if we're going to do that, it's got to be this.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was lucky he trusted me with that. You know, I mean, especially somebody like Ezek, who could have gone to multiple people, and I'm sure he wouldn't have any shortage of people on board, but I wanted to do it right. And I wanted him to be presented the right way and make sure that like what he was saying is his message, you know, and it's interpreted through his lens. Like I always say that about Diablo's Den. Like, I'm just the co-host, man. I'm just the guy who's making sure that this is going on. Like, I believe in Ezek so much, and he knows this. We talk so much about it. Like, you know, he's a dude that, like, again, I want the best for him. And we've spent so much time, whether it's, you know, getting him on Cameo a couple of years ago, or I just helped him get his new distribution deal for E-Train Records, or working on the podcast, or like me and him are working on a zine that the pre-orders are going to start for in a couple of weeks. And it's just, again, man, it's like, I believe so much in our circle of people, Jay, that like, it's nice to be able to do shit for your friends and not need to take shit. Whereas like, I'm sure you had the same experience, dude, that I did, where it's like, okay, I could help you, but it's 25%, or it's this, it's that.
Right.
Dude, it's like, now I got all the fucking tools in the shed. So whatever my friends need to, just come and ask. I don't charge shit. Again, I think it's so important for us to understand where our music goes, how money's made, what we're making. You see so many of these infographics that post these totally skewed numbers. And it's like, you don't even understand that, like, part of that goes to publishing or this or that. It's just an infographic to you. So a lot of my job is educating a lot of our friends in our circle and helping them own their masters, owning their publishing, all that shit, dude. It's so important to me.
Yeah. And that's the thing too, being a young hardcore band, I don't think I can count how many times I've played free shows just to be able to have the opportunity.
Dude, I don't think Voice of Reason ever got paid. Like I literally, I half joking, but again, man, we would get emails to be like, yo, Pitts, that's my guy right there. What up, Pitts? Caps lock. So much of that, dude, Pitts showing up threw me off, man. What was I just saying? I'm sorry.
You're talking about the catalogs and not making money and
right.
And,
so yeah, like, dude, people would email us and be like, yo, want to play Pennsylvania? We wouldn't be like, how much or whatever. We'd be like, yeah, man, we'll fucking be there.
Right.
And then it was just like, if you sold a couple shirts or you brought your distro, you were good. And that was it. It was never like, I'm going to get $200. Like I said, I don't think I ever really made money touring and in music till we did The Distance. But that, again, I went in with a mindset of like understanding what I was trying to do, making sure that publishing was set up, making sure, learning a lot of fucking mistakes too. But yeah, dude, I don't think even when we got signed to Triple Crown and did a lot of stuff, I mean, we made a little bit of money, but it was still, dude, very small in comparison to stuff.
That's a thing too. People, when you're a young kid and you see these hardcore bands, it's like they may play a show and then they're, they got to go work at 9 to 5 in the morning. Like
totally.
You think they're like, oh, this is what they do for a living, and some of them may, but then it's like, to harken back to Stretch Armstrong, those guys were all high school teachers,
Totally.
So it was like, which is very admirable, like, and
yeah,
I think
and dude, Chris works for AEG, which is one of the largest concert promoters, and again, a lot of my work ethic comes from seeing dudes like that in those positions, because there was always this kind of facade where it's like, oh, no one really works in music, they just make music, and that's the furthest thing from the truth, and again, one of the things I always tell young kids or clients, I'm like, hey man, like, do whatever you got to do. Just don't lose the focus. Don't stay off the path. Like if you got to work at fucking Amazon warehouse, to do it, don't let that become your life. Just it's what it is to pay the bills, man. It is what it is. Yeah, maybe you can't play as much, but dude, you just do what you got to fucking do. Again, man, like my whole journey in all of this, dude, was, as much as I would love to sit here and be like, yeah, dude, it's always been on music and shit, dude. There were so many times where fucking music, I worked at Sony, got laid off, then got hired again. But there was a window in between there where it's like, dude, worked at fucking the newspaper and it was miserable. You know what, dude? I fucking did it. I didn't let it define my day. I wasn't the fucking newspaper web editor, whatever title they gave me, dude. I was like, no, I still fucking do music, but right now I'm doing this, So it's like, and yeah, it's especially Tim, shout out Metro North and the construction guys, because again, dude, it's just like, it's dudes like Tim is saying, it's like, people like us just, trying to make music and do stuff, but like work and stuff. I always hated that it always seemed like you couldn't say you didn't.
Yeah. Like Jorge from Marauder was on this show, and then Stickman, and that's what they do. Yeah. Like there's a lot of like blue collar guys that are in hardcore. I think that's part of the appeal of it too.
Oh, totally.
Is the fact that
totally,
they're not some, necessarily mega rock stars, like they're just working class Joes.
Oh, dude, my dad is 70 years old, works in the factory and still works 5 days a week. So like, I mean, I get it, dude. Like I said, man, like, I don't talk a lot about personal shit like that, but it's like, man, I fucking get it. Like I said, dude, both my parents still work 5 days a week. I always tell them maybe they shouldn't, but they got to do what they got to do, man. I work too, dude. I work my main gig and then I got the label and I got all these other things. But dude, yeah, I very much, and again, it's something I always stress to young dudes when they come into the shop and they see the store and, they see these things. And I tell them, like, look, dude, this is paid for, by this or the label or this or that. I make sure everyone understands that it's not like this big magical thing.
Right.
I
Yeah.
think it's
No,
important.
I think that's where, DIY comes in, is that you end up having to shell out a lot of your own cash, and but in a way it's probably going to be eventually to your benefit, especially in this technological era that we're living in, to where, you can just put out your own music, you don't even have to have a label. If you just have good promotion, people will come, and then you don't have to pay any sort of proceeds to a label. Though I've heard a lot of people say that they still like the label because it does advertise and it gets
Yeah, and
them
listen,
into.
I work with clients who fit so many different roles, right? So like you'll hear me tell people like, "Hey man, this is fit for a label. This needs to just be distributed. This should be licensed."
Mhm.
I don't think there's like a one fit solution for everything, right? I always think everything is like client and project based because your goals aren't going to be the same as like a R&B artist or like a pop artist, right? Like everyone's going to have a different goal, and everybody's audience consumes music on a different platform at a different place, right? So it's like I can't give you the same solution I'm going to tell UB40 or Brian McKnight or Shaka Khan, right? Like
Right.
everybody's going to be different, and I think that again, understanding that and letting people know that, look, dude, it's definitely an uphill battle. There's still a lot of tools, but dude, you're also going against, what is it, something like a couple thousand songs are uploaded a day on Spotify and Apple Music that have no plays. So again, there's all these
Right.
challenges while there are all these tools. But yeah, man, I think it's a really interesting time. So obviously, like, I'm always pro label. We do a label, Static Air Records. It's a very unique situation with the label. We don't try to own the masters most of the time. We don't touch publishing. We don't do a lot of stuff. A lot of our shit is more like helping it get out there, doing some vinyl stuff, doing some PR. I love developing bands. That's something that me and Jamie did for a really long time at Stillborn. And that was what kind of why I started doing Static Era. I don't do a lot of hardcore because there's some amazing hardcore labels right now, like Triple B and Days and Scheme and Streets of Hate. And I love all those labels. So I'm like, I don't even want to try to I don't even think I could play like as in that kind of field. They do it so great.
Well, and the
So we
great
kind of,
thing about
I kind of stay in my own little.
the great thing about a label too is that, you know they kind of unify into this one collective. Like, Victory Records obviously was huge for me growing up, and then it's like, ooh, I like Hatebreed. Oh, they've what other bands are cool like on this label? Oh, they've got Strife. Oh,
Totally.
they've got Earth Crisis, Buried Alive, all these other bands. Like, and so I think that's the benefit of having a label like that, is just the unification of it all, so that,
Yeah, I
early.
tend to work with a lot. I tend to work with a lot of my friends, man. Like we put out this amazing band called Slighted, which is Zach from Man Overboard and Wes from Death Threats band. We have this amazing band called Cinema Stare, who could not be any different than Slighted. So a lot of the time, man, Jay, I try to work with the people more so than even the music. If I
Mm,
feel like I meet somebody who just like, oh, that's somebody who I know can take what I'm gonna give them and fucking we're both gonna win. I don't even have to fucking like your band. You know what I mean, dude? Like, I'll just
yeah.
do it. I'm such a like a people person, man. And I think anyone who knows me would tell you that is like just an investor in a person, man. Like I said, so many people believed in me and gave me a chance that I know it wasn't because of the fucking music, dude. It was because they were like, oh, this dude's doing shit.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, man, sometimes to my fault, but that's a lot of what I look into, and look for.
That's awesome, man.
They
Yeah,
work
I
great with the
mean,
Space Kelly, you're right.
that's uh, um, that's always something I thought about getting into. I love the hype of a band. I love like talking up my friends' bands. I love, just being able to, uh, like you said, kind of help each other out, and just be able to, that's one thing I like about the hardcore scene, is being able to, like, you know, it's so tight knit, and that there's so many bands that are just like, will like help each other out, and it's like a community thing, instead of like you know the inaccessibility of what we would see from like a major show or something like that.
Totally, man. You and I were briefly talking about this before we started. I mean, so much of my what I do today, man, is the people that looked out for me, right? So,
Yeah.
you got Jamie, who, I'm so blessed again being around them at the most magical time of Hatebreed, and him, again, giving me so many opportunities. Um, you know, Past tense, Rick to Life was an amazing person who helped out and did so much stuff, helped us get signed in Triple Crown, put us on comps, distributed our demo, put us on shows. There was just, like I said, man, there was a magical moment where I feel so lucky, Jay, because so many people looked out for me as a person. I know it wasn't about the music. For whatever reason, they felt like, okay, this kid's got something, or he wants to do something, or maybe it was just that I was so young trying to talk to people who were so scary. They were just like, okay, if this dude's coming up to me, like, it must be fine. But, that's so much of that, man. Like I said, is something I look at when I'm talking to somebody who comes into the shop, a young kid. We get so many kids at the shop who they're starting their first hardcore band or this or that. And it's so much fun, dude, because we get to talk to them about it. And I share so many of our stories like we do today. And it's rewarding, man. Like I said, going back to the original thing, it's yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Like, how did that come about? How did you start that?
Yeah. So, Jay, that's it's kind of crazy, man, because that really only came through because of the pandemic. So I had originally started the stores. Yeah, the store's going on just over 3 years. And I had started the label almost exactly a year before that. The first record I did was Andrew from Comeback Kids band called Sights and Sounds. No Virtue. The record's amazing.
That's interesting that you would start a record label during the pandemic, though.
Oh, dude, Pitts will tell you, wherever he is in the chat, all of my friends in that chat thought I was insane because everything is closing. Everybody's moving. Everything is like the end of the world. And I'm like, no, I'm going to do this. But let me tell you, man, like I'm going to give you a little pull the curtain behind on this. So, I'd started Static Era with a goal, and I went to, at the time it's E1, but they're Monarch. Shout out to Monarch. That's my digital partner. Mm-hmm. And says, hey, I want to start this kind of label and do this, right? So a year in, I remember a second release, shout out to Husbandry. The day the vinyl comes in, Jay, New York City says, hey, you can't play no fucking shows. So now I'm sitting on like a couple hundred records, okay? And I don't know what the fuck I'm going to do. And on top of that like, dude, again, I go to shows a couple times a week. I love being around people. I love all of that shit, right? So I live in a downtown area where there's like shops and all this shit. And one day, dude, I just saw a fucking for rent sign up. And I kind of figured, I was like, you know what? There's never, ever for rents down here. It's a really busy area. Like if there is, they're picked up right away. The rent is usually so fucking insane that like you could definitely never open a record shop. But I was like, you know what? Let me call the number. Again, much like the Don Fury thing. Let me just fucking call and see what's the worst the dude's going to say. Yes, no, it's this much, whatever, right? So shout out to our landlord, Buddy Preet, who's amazing. He very much, saw the vision. And I just said, I was like, hey, man, record store, what do you think? And I kind of gave him a little bit of my background. So I was like, it's not my first time. I've done this stuff. And, I was like, this is how we'll start it. And, I opened 2 days a week. And it was very slow at start, man, but it was very much just out of need of like not letting down my digital partner, Monarch. I committed to them to start this label and get bands out and do all these things. And we're working on a Cruel Hand record at the time. And, dude, again, so much of my stuff was like, I did not want to let down the bands or the digital partner or just anyone. Sure. I always have felt let down when I've gotten worked with labels or people. And I just, in everybody's chapter, man, I don't want to be the dude who's that guy.
Saying it was cool to, that you had the bravery to be able to start a brick and mortar like record store. Cause I really love going into those and actually seeing a record, like that. And holding it and looking at the artwork and just like, that's so like amazing to me. I was saying if I was up in the Connecticut area sometime, I'll have to come check it out.
Oh yeah, dude, I'd love to have you. You have to do DIABLO'S den with me and do it on the thing. I invite everybody to come to the shop. Like I said, it's very much more like a barber shop than or like a venue. I always say, because we just have like people hanging out. It's very loud, but it's so cool. There's hardcore shit everywhere.
As long as Ezek's there, being his McCracken jokes.
He came to do some sales at Christmas. I don't know if you saw the photo, but he was behind the register ringing customers out. And he was wearing this crazy red outfit, and it was amazing.
Oh yeah, I saw him wearing like some pimp outfit, and I was like,
yeah, he was at Generations. Shout out to Mark and Generations and those guys. He was at Generations beforehand, and then came up.
He looked like he should have belonged in like Soviet Russia or something. He had the big furry hat on and stuff. I was like, oh man, that's pretty dope.
Yeah, man, it was amazing. But we put him behind the register, and people loved it.
He's got such a great personality, man. Like that guy.
Like I said,
that guy deserves to be like where he's at.
Out of all the things you listed, doing the podcast with him is definitely like one of the top.
Oh yeah, he's entertaining. I think it was on Hoya's podcast. He was talking about how somebody asked him what the capital of Toronto was. I think it was Hoya was asking. He was like, "What's the capital of Toronto?" He's like, "Isaac," like that. He was
Oh
like,
yeah.
"No, the capital of Canada. That's not even Toronto. It's Ottawa."
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, hilarious. Let's see here. Scott Gajewski says, "Wow, I never heard that story about
Oh,
how the
thanks,
store
Scott.
started.
Yeah,
I had
man. It
to
was
more
like I said,
respect
it's
for
listen,
them."
man, and every day it's hard. We just hit over 3 years. I never fucking wanted to own a store. I never thought I would. Jay, doing like taxes and all those adult things, man, are not anything in my I can't stress that enough to anyone listening. And people who know this and are listening are like shaking their head, going, like, of course we know that about you. Like, but I'm just such a passionate person, man, that like my whole thing, man, when shit goes wrong is like, okay, well, how can I make this right without, dude, I can't freak out. Everything in my life is pretty much sustained by me. So it's like, I've worked for myself for over 10 years. I'm lucky enough, to be able to do that and be able to have the label and live a, pretty comfortable life. But dude, it's hard. There's a lot of shit I got to do and there's a lot of fucking clients I got to chase. But dude, the reward of that is like, again, man, helping Smoke AD get started with somebody like Hoya is like, fuck, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, or, again, getting a call from Isaac to do the podcast or, any of that kind of stuff, dude. It's the fucking best, dude.
Yeah, no doubt. And let's see, owning a business is a full-time hustle.
No,
Yes,
yeah, Tim
indeed.
knows that. He knows that for sure. He does the pins and stuff with Kelly.
Oh, that's awesome. I'm gonna have to check that out.
Oh yeah, definitely hit them up.
What do you do to stay disciplined? Like, how do you kind of stay centered and what do you kind
I
of do?
gotta shout out my fiance Vivian. If it wasn't for her, a lot of it has to do with having just really strong support, dude. But prior to her, man, a lot of it is just not letting people down, dude. It's as stupid as it sounds. I have this internal monologue that's just kind of like, remember when somebody did that for you and it sucked? Don't do, it's so due to a fault sometimes. I'm just always trying to make sure that, like I said, man, in somebody's story, I'm not the dude who fucked up their stuff.
Yeah, that's important. Like maintaining and sustaining relationships.
And managing the expectation too. Like again, man, I think anyone who works with me will tell you, like, I almost always under deliver because I know how hard shit is to do and get and accomplish, so that like when we have a win, it feels so fucking good.
Yeah.
Because then we know we worked it, we got it. It's like so many people and so many labels or publishing companies or this, that, the third, like offer all of these things. And I'm like, how can you even offer that? Like, I know how shit really works. I would distribute a ton of big stuff. So when I hear stuff, I'm just like, well, maybe, but that's not right.
Yeah,
and I never want to tell people that. But again, dude, so much of this stuff has been a learning thing. And I just feel so lucky to know so much about the process.
That's awesome, man. Now, I know a lot of people are influenced, especially myself. I come from a Hollywood background and, the hardcore scene, they're influenced by other outside arts and culture. So, one thing I like to ask people is what's some of the media you're consuming? What are some of the books you're reading? What are some of the movies you've seen, the films you've seen? Any good shows recently? Any good new bands to check out?
I watch a lot of YouTube, like a lot of YouTube. So and I don't watch like, man, I'm always learning, like for instance, like a couple of years ago, like a year before or two before the pandemic, I'd really wanted to learn After Effects, because I do a lot of graphic shit and that was just something that always interested me. So I watch a lot of stuff like that. On Sundays, me and Viv, we kind of have a routine of YouTube channels that we watch of some bloggers and some other stuff.
Who are some of the ones you watch? I'm curious.
Oh, dude. So I love Florida Made MG. Pineapple will know who that is. He kind of goes around and makes people eat a hot chip challenge.
Those are great.
Yeah. And then Viv likes a lot of the food stuff. So we watch a lot of like, she watches a lot of like Vegas buffet and kind of like really like bougie kind of stuff. And then you know what, too, Jay? I'm a big video game guy, like all the way through.
Nice. What are you playing?
Yeah, so dude, Fortnite all day. So like I'm a big
Fortnite.
Oh yeah, dude, die hard. I'm on
could,
all the time.
I
Add me
never
guys
got
in
into it. I thought it was like just for little kids.
Oh no way, dude. And that's what I tell everybody. I'm like, it's so much fun. I think too, for me with my schedule, it's nice because you can kind of just quickly play like a 25-minute game. A game's about 20-25 minutes or so. So you can kind of jump in, jump out. Yeah, I've been playing pretty much since the start. There's a bunch of other games. I just finished Spider-Man, the new one. But I'm always a PlayStation guy. So since day one, shout out Sony.
Man, I'll tell you what, I had like a 10-year break from video games. And then when I moved back to LA, I bought a Switch and I
Oh
was
yeah,
like,
I use my Switch all the time, and you saw in my main room, I got a bunch of the arcade cabinets and stuff. So I'm a like a true, yeah. I mean, I remember us
now I'm
getting the
addicted again though. Like I
oh
play it pretty religiously. Like I got real into the Breath of the Wild,
oh
Legend of
cool.
Zelda, and
You
Tears
know
of the
what you should
Kingdom.
download, Jay, for the Switch that was great was a game called Cult of the Lamb.
Okay.
You would love it. I played that to like 100. It was, and I actually bought it purposely for the Switch. It's on everything, but I bought it for the Switch because it feels like it plays the best on there. Just check it out when you get a chance. It was one of my favorite
Okay.
games
Okay. I just
last year,
finished
or the year before.
Red Dead Redemption, the
Oh,
first one.
great game. Yeah, great game.
Yeah,
Played
and
both.
it's a shame that Switch isn't offering it for the second one.
Right.
Like, I played the shit out of the first one, and I was like, "Man, this is so good." And then it's like, I wanna play the second one, and Nintendo doesn't have it. I'm like, "This is fucked up," you know? Like, why?
The one who runs everything at the store. So shout out
Oh,
to
yeah.
Air for Effect. He just put out his new EP. So check him out on streaming. But Austin's the best. He's the reason Static Era, the storefront and store operations runs so well. I literally can't say enough good things about him. Definitely check out his new EP. It's amazing. If you like atmospheric synth stuff, he's great.
We need to talk about Blackened a little bit.
Yeah, please, let's do it, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
like
that was a project that I was unfamiliar with that you had when I was,
and that was
I
one of the
was familiar
most
with you
fun,
from
Jay.
Voice of Reason and The Distance, but I didn't know about this other project. So yeah, talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was saying about Blackened really quick, man, was rest in peace to Chris Legg, who we lost last year.
Mhm.
Fuck, did I lose you again, man? Oh, no, there you
No,
are.
I'm
Blackened was so much Blackened was so much Chris Legg's imagination and brainchild. Chris was one of my best friends. He was my roommate for a little while early on. He was one of the first people when I was really young, Voice Reason. He played in Fast Break, which was a big Connecticut band. And I remember, like, when The Distance was looking for a second guitar player, I got an email from him, and I was so psyched that he wanted to join our band. I couldn't even fucking believe it. Okay, sorry. So yeah, Chris, after The Distance kind of was like ending a little bit after the like the full length, Leg like came to me and was like, dude, I really want to do this heavy band. And he's like, I want you to sing on it. He's like, I'm writing it with your voice in mind, but it's all heavy. He's like, you can't sing. He's like, it's got to be hard, blah, 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 blah. Especially because The Distance was coming off such a melodic record. And so then we reached out to my boy Dave, and Dave played in Hatebreed's original lineup up on a bunch of the recordings, and Dave plays in Lost Gen and Murmur and has done a piece. Yo, my boy Mike, shout out to Mike is my my other brother, dude. I love him. He's the best. Mike, I'm so happy you made it on here, dude. You're the best. But yo, so we reached out to Dave, and then from there, the three of us talked, and then we reached out to Chris Beatty from Hatebreed, who's another good friend of us. Like I said, we all grew up together. And yeah, man, it was just this magical moment that I don't think it could ever be recreated. Not, obviously not with Chris being gone, but just the timing of it and everything. And then we went to Zeus's and we recorded the record in, a couple days, and then we released it on Think Fast Records. Shout out to my boy Ryan, who still to this day looks out for me. And yeah, dude, the record was such a magical moment. We got to play like 4 shows, and it was amazing because it was always all of us together. It was always with Beatty and Dave and Chris, and the live band actually had Wayne, who plays in Hatebreed now, and then our other friend Larry Dwyer, who played in Hatebreed early on, played with us. So it was kind of like this just crazy magical moment, Jay, that I don't think could ever be replicated. We had always wanted to do a second record, and dude, we had so many plans off that record to try to do Europe and all this stuff, but with Hatebreed being Hatebreed, there was just no way. And shout out to Beatty, he had gave us the blessing to try to do it, but I didn't want to do it if it couldn't be all of us, because what made it special to me was that it was all of us, and being together. So I didn't want to do it if Beatty couldn't be in it. So unfortunately, we didn't get to do much, but I love that record, and I wish there was more awareness about it, and I wish people could hear it more. But I've been trying to get the word out about it, especially when Leg had it.
You mentioned coming from a Latin American background. What how did your parents experience coming here? Because you said you're from Cuba. I actually worked with a guy who was Cuban, and he told me they came over on a raft, and he said on the first day that they were coming over, a big wave came and took all their shit over the side, And so they
Yeah,
didn't have
luckily my
kids.
parents weren't part of that. My mom was part of like the freedom flight, so she came over young. And then my
Mhm.
dad came through Spain and connected with his family, and then they met in high school. They're still together. It's an amazing story. Like I said, man,
Yeah.
I feel so lucky to have both my parents here and together, and they've done so much for me and my brother. They have given everything and then some to us. So I just feel super lucky, you know. And again, man, they always, I think, just seeing people like that, it instilled that sort of like, how hard could it be to do something? Just call, just do this. You know, my mom would always say that to me, and I was like, well, that's not how it works. And you know, she was always right. I could just call, and you know, we got Don Fury, we got the store. So yeah, shout out to them for doing that. And it was interesting too, man, because growing up, you know, none of my family really spoke English. So like I remember kind of feeling embarrassed going and like translating for them at places and you know all these things. And these are things that I miss now that I would do anything to be able to see some of those people and do that for them, you know.
Yeah.
Um yeah, man, it's just such a unique way to grow up. And I feel like I remember too, I always say this to like Roger and Freddie when I see them, that I was like, yo, they were like the first Cubans that I saw like in hardcore. And that was
Yeah.
like the coolest thing because I never saw no Cuban people outside of the Cuban club. So it was
Yeah.
like this really cool thing. And I remember giving Freddie this Cuban keychain thing. And you know, I was a kid and was just kind of like gave it to him and stuff. I was like, oh, I'm Cuban too, you know, like it was just cool to see somebody like you when you don't really see that, you know.
My dad actually went to Cuba when he was a child, whenever Batista was in power and he was being overthrown by Castro. And because I guess his adopted father's sister was living over there, and they went to go get her. Come to find out, she'd been murdered by her husband, and I think the communists eventually killed him as well. But he went back. He went over there when they were like sacking Havana, and like they his he said his stepdad wouldn't talk to him the whole time and was just like, it was a very like grim type situation. Came back and they just burned the fucking boat, and it was just like, he told me, he said, if you ever get the chance, you got to go check out Cuba. He says it's so beautiful, just the state of the country is kind of it is what it is, but he said just the scenery and just the splendor of it all is amazing. Husband.
Yeah,
And
dude,
they
my
have,
my dad's dad, my grandfather was a political prisoner. And like there's a lot of shit like, you know, dude, I don't ask a lot because I know how tragic it is for them. So it's like,
yeah.
you know, and like growing up, it was always a thing. So it's you just try to kind of not, you know, you just kind of almost, you know, badly keep your head down. But I'm again, man, I'm so proud of my parents because to come over with nothing and what they've built is amazing to watch. And again, man, have given me and my brother so many opportunities. I feel so lucky. You know, I say lucky. I don't even believe in that. I feel so grateful, dude. I don't believe in luck,
That's
but I
good.
just feel grateful, you know, to have been part of my family and get the parents I got and again live that have the life I had, man. Mistakes and all, dude. I everything I've done, dude, has taught me how to do it better the next time around.
Yeah. And that's the part of the glory of getting older is like, you make mistakes, you learn from those mistakes, you come back stronger. And it's like, you know, it
Yeah,
it
totally.
ultimately defines you as a human being.
Yeah, no, totally, man. And again, I'm so grateful because it connects me with people like you, and I have friends who come into the chat, and you know, man, listen, I again, at the end of the day, I'm a hardcore kid who never thought anyone would give a shit. So the fact that I get to do this with you, dude, and bullshit for like an hour and change, and like, you know, dude, this is so fun, man. And I again just feel so grateful and so blessed that anybody gives a shit about anything I've done or have to say or anything like that. So even
Dude.
with all the glitches, man, you guys are the best.
Yeah, thanks for everybody for sticking around through all the technical difficulties. But one thing before we go, I want you to, go ahead and shout out, again, everything you've got going on,
Yeah, man.
upcoming projects that are in the pipeline, and any individuals you.
Everybody who came in. Jay, thank you to you, dude, for having me on. This is so awesome. I always appreciate the platform.
Oh no,
It's
the
really important, and
audio.
things like this really help us get the word out. So I think there's somebody on fire outside there.
Oh
Um,
shit.
check out the store. I have a reality show that we've been working on. And
Oh shit.
let me know if I'm back here and I can finish.
Yeah, sort of.
Shit,
Your
yeah.
audio's
Am I
sort of
back? Am
back.
I back?
Reality
Uh,
show.
back now?
Sort of. Yeah,
Am
I
I
think
back?
so. Yeah. No. Oh
Did I
no.
get
Oh
knocked out
no.
again here?
I can hear you, but it comes through sporadically for like a few seconds.
I get knocked out here again? Did I get
can
knocked out
kind
here
of
again
see
or
you.
no?
I can kind of see you.
I don't think so.
Oh,
Is it working?
yeah.
Or
Here, let me try to remove you and then bring you back in.
fuck. Everybody who can hear this, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
um, yeah. You said a reality show. That was the last thing you left off
Or
on.
no?
Uh, no,
Jake,
no.
hold on a second.
Maybe try hopping out and hopping back in to cap this off. Okay. One thing real quick before we go. Hell's Heart Merch Co. Let me go ahead and throw up some of his designs here. Or maybe not. Jay's back, sort of. Okay. You back?
I don't know. Is it working now? I
It
have no
works
idea.
now. Yeah, you're
Okay.
coming in crystal
You know,
clear now.
there was a fucking I don't know if you heard the sirens. I think something across the street.
That was what caused it all.
I just wanted to thank all my friends, everybody. You guys know who you are. I tried to shout out everybody who walked in. And again, Jay, thank you to you, man, for giving me the platform to talk about this. You know, like I said, I could talk forever, but I don't want to bore everybody. But I would just say, you know, please, everybody, you know, I'm working on a reality show. I've kind of been talking about this a little bit recently. Been doing a lot of press for it. It's called Record Stories. You can follow it on Instagram, Record Stories TV. So we've been working a lot of that. That was a lot of what I worked on last year. We've got the pilot done. We're shopping that. We're really excited. It's a kind of it's Antique Roadshows meets Pawn Stars, but about records with a little bit of diners, drive-ins, and dives with record
cool.
stores.
Awesome.
I'll have to send you the sizzle offline just so you can check it out. It's super cool. And then yeah, man, shout out to Ezak and shout out to Smoke AD, Hoya. Help get that off the ground. We have some new stuff coming from them. Yeah, check out Static Era stuff. There's some really great stuff. We put out a record from Slighted. We've got Hard Target. We've got Cinema Stare. We got Roland Coffin, which is Tim from VOD's band, which is doing very well.
Oh shit, yeah.
Yeah, you should get him on here if you haven't too.
I would love to. I think
yeah,
I
I'll
tried
set you up with that, dude.
Yeah.
Tim is the best. He's a really great interview.
Fucking VOD,
and that's it, man. Just, support everybody's links in the chat. So many of my friends support me, so I love supporting them. And yeah, man, Jace, shout out to you. If there's anything I can do, I'll definitely connect you with Chris and those guys. I'm always happy to.
Awesome, man. I really
help.
appreciate that.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, guys, about the glitch, man. I had even restarted all my shit, making sure, but for some reason the magic here was working against me.
It's live, folks. That's what you got to deal with sometimes. Dude, thanks so much for coming on. Like I said, I promote Hell's Heart Merch Co. We do like movie themed t-shirts, and we also do have our own little mock line. I'll throw up.
You got to do a La Bamba shirt, man, so I could buy it.
I'll do. You know what? That one thing, like I said, this is his AO collaboration. We did one with Agro's, Paris Mayhew from Cro-Mag's new project. It was an Apocalypse Now mock. I could do a La Bamba Diablo's Den podcast. That would be fucking sick, man. I think.
Oh, dude, let me know, man. I'm so in.
Okay, cool. Let me throw up some of the designs real quick.
Yeah, do it.
This is the Black Flag mock that we got. This is the Steve McQueen bullet design. Dude,
yeah,
please,
that looks great, man.
So much. Then we've got the Psycho 2 design.
Sick.
This is the Scream Tatum design. That one glows in the dark. We also have a Randy design up there too. And then, yeah, there is the Randy design actually. Some of them are 30, some of them are 20, some of them are on sale. So check that out. We got a few more comments left. Scott Gajewski says, this was awesome. I will get my ass to the record store soon.
Scott, shout out. Dude, I'm so lucky. Like I said, man, shout out to Scott, Tim, Kelly, Pitts, my boy Mike VHS, Mike O'Brien.
Great stream, guys. Happy to find the channel. Gonna do the backlog.
Yeah, Mike VHS has got a cool YouTube channel where he does a lot of reviews. You heard me shout that out. But again, dude, Jay, I feel so lucky, dude. Everybody who joins the chat, or people coming in the store, my family, dude, it's fucking awesome, man. I just, like I said, man, I not lucky. I don't believe in luck. Grateful, blessed,
Yeah, of course, man. It's a good feeling, dude. And we'll everybody, if you haven't already, like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll go ahead and throw Jay's links down here in the the comment section, and please support him in all his
Yeah, and Jay, you got
endeavors.
to make it up to the shop so I can return the favor and have you on our show.
I would love to, man. I'm pretty, my schedule's pretty open, and I just got a new set of wheels, so I'd
Awesome,
be
man.
willing to
Well,
cruise
yo,
up
the best thing is
there.
I'm right on the train, so you don't even have to drive. You could literally take. I'm right on a Metro North track, as the store's right across the street from the train station. So.
Oh no, I mean, as far as coming up there, I'd probably have to drive. So, but yeah, no, I'd love to do it, man. I think it'd be awesome. But oh no, we're losing you again. Shit. Well, we'll chop it up backstage, and hopefully we'll have a little
All right,
bit of
brother.
better reception. But yeah, hang out for a few minutes. Everybody, like, comment, share, subscribe, click on that bell. We got a bunch of good shows coming up. Namaste. God bless.
Yo,
Hare
thank you
Krishna.
guys so
Be
much.
good, y'all.
Peace.
Thank you, guys.